Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the greatest show on the internet. And if this is your first time here, my name is Eileen Smith, and today we're going to be talking all about podcasting. Podcasting is one of my favorite ways to distribute my content, to connect with my audience, and to build a loyal fan base. So let's get started. There's been a lot happening in the podcasting space, especially when it comes to stats and analytics and how we track the success and the performance of our content via audio. The first thing that happened that I want to mention is that Apple, for the first time ever, released stats available to all podcasters who have a direct connection with Apple via their iTunes Connect. So just Google iTunes Connect if you have a podcast, and you'll see your podcast listed there. And over on the left-hand side, you'll click on Podcast Analytics. Voila, this is something that the podcasting space has wanted for a really long time. It's been available to a select few podcasters for a while, and it's great to see that Apple has finally released this information to your everyday podcaster. So with that, I also want to talk about another piece of news in terms of podcasting analytics. There is an organization called the IAB, the Interactive Broadcasting Academy, and the Interactive IAB, Advertising Broadcasters, and they have a set of standards to use for measurement of podcasting consumption. And basically, one of the challenges with consuming a podcast is when it's streaming through to your mobile phone, whether you download it on your computer and then later on sync it and listen to it on your mobile device or some other podcasting agent. This has been a challenge, and a lot of statistics over time have been over-reported because one person may have several devices. You may have your iPhone or your Android phone, and then you have your iPad. But then sometimes you listen to your podcast on your computer. And in the past, you may have been considered 3 people, but you're really only one person. So the industry has been working diligently to come up with a set of measurement standards that also eliminates things like bots. We know that when we tweet things out on Twitter, there's all kinds of bots that come and consume our content. We want to eliminate that traffic, those downloads that are coming from bots, from our traffic stats. So that's another thing the IAB is working to do. So you want to eliminate things like duplication. I just gave you a couple of examples. I don't know all of the examples and all of the ways that those stats can go wrong, but all of the major players in the podcasting space have come together with this board on the IAB, and they've been working on these standards. Now, they've been working on them for years. They released the first set of standards earlier in 2017, but just last week, they updated those standards, those measurement standards, to include more specifics, to address more of the issues that these podcasting hosts face with counting your downloads. So that was number 1. And number 2, the third thing that happened was Libsyn, otherwise known as Liberated Syndication, also updated their podcasting stats platform. So what we're going to do today, we're going to take a look at the very first look at the Apple podcasting analytics. And we're also going to take a peek at some of those updated stats on the Libsyn, the new version of the Libsyn Stats dashboard. So with that, let me just take a real quick peek over here and show you who we have in the chat area here on the live stream. Let's see here. We have my girl Tish Rosales, also known as my hashtagologist, and she's already hashtagging it up over there with hashtag Eileen Fun. And then we have Dr. Babe. Welcome. Dr. Babe is her first time coming to the live stream, and I so appreciate you for finding me, tracking me down here. I mentioned over on Anchor that I was either going to go live on Facebook or on YouTube, and Dr. Babe found me. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate it. And you may also be in the notification squad. That may also be another way that you found out. So without further ado, I was lucky enough that I got my daughter to let me take a little sneak peek at her dashboard. Because to be honest with you, Miss Eileen didn't have enough stats on her Miss Eileen Speaks podcast. But my daughter, whose podcast is Better Than Success, you saw that screen that flashed up there at the beginning. Her website is betterthansuccess.com, and her podcast is the Better Than Success podcast, where she talks about entrepreneurship. And we're in Philadelphia, so she has a lot of involvement with the local real estate area, the local area real estate. She's going to be her company is spearheading the Philadelphia Real Estate Week, which is going to happen in June. And she also just came off the heels of her Women in Real Estate Summit. And one of the episodes you'll see here, and Tish is commenting that that Nicole's podcast is pretty awesome. Thank you, Tish. So one of the episodes that you'll see here coming up was one of the interviews that was done at that live summit. Okay, but the first thing you're going to see when you log in is the overview of your stats. Now, from what we understand, or from what I understand, all you're seeing is anyone who is listening to a podcast, who has downloaded and listening to a podcast on a device, an Apple device that is iOS 11 or higher. Okay, so I guess that could be iPhone 5, 5S, 6, 6 Plus, 6S, 7, 7 Plus. I don't know if there was a 7S. I don't think so. 8, 8 Plus, which is what I have. The 10, iPads, iPad Pros, all the different variations of iPads would also be considered in these statistics. So let me take a sip. Here. So you're seeing devices. Now, we're not live in her dashboard. This is actually a PDF that I printed out from her dashboard. Okay. So now it says top countries by device as well. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me back up. Let's start with devices. And then there's 306 total hours. Now, these stats they're not really retroactive. They're only going back to November 1st. Her podcast has been out for over a year now, or very close to a year. So this is only starting as of November the 1st. Okay. And so it says that each device is listening about 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is very good because most of her episodes do not last that long. They're typically more in the 40-minute range, as you'll see as we scroll down. And here's a couple of the episodes you'll see here. One was 37 minutes, 25 minutes. But as I mentioned, I wanted to focus in on this one that was the live podcast recording here. And that was a part, she did it as a part one and a part two. And you'll see that there was this consumption rate is what to me is really important. And I'm hovering there. Hopefully this is big enough for you guys to see. Let me even see if I can make it a little bit bigger there. Okay. And you'll see that was 92%. Now, I got to tell you, that is pretty incredible, especially a Science World is here, and he's here for the first time. And hey, Katie is here as well. Thanks, guys. So this is really incredible. If you would compare this to a YouTube video, you would find that YouTube stats are nowhere near a 92% completion rate. That's pretty much unheard of, especially considering this was a 30-minute podcast. Actually, it's 31 minutes, 30 minutes and 59 seconds. So let me just come back on cam while I get the next screenshot up. So pretty impressive, don't you think? Like I said, it's pretty revolutionary that iTunes is even releasing these stats to us. And so just to see them there and really get a glimpse that, you know, your content is really reaching people when you're getting that much engagement here. So we're going to open up the next one. Now, in this one that I have, I'm using this tool that I'm actually using for the very first time called Doc Hub, which is letting me view this because the PDFs didn't view too well on this. Okay, I'm going to get it all set up for you guys though before I start screen sharing again. All right, here we go. All right, and I didn't do it exactly the way I wanted it to. That's better. Okay, so here you'll see very similar to our YouTube watch time stats. Science World is asking, what is this channel about? I talk about content and oh great, Tish is answering. Tish is one of the moderators here. Thank you so much. And so in this case today, Science World, we're talking about podcasting. So now if you ever saw a YouTube watch time graph, very similar to this, where you're seeing, see at the very beginning of the episode, you know, you have this blue bar here that shows like where people are along this timeline of watching this or listening, listening to this podcast. Now, what you can do when you're in this, do you mind getting that? What you can do when you're in this is you can see that it's dipping down and, excuse me, and I'm going to assume that when this little dip happens, maybe when there's an announcement being made or something to that of that sort. And what happens is folks, you kind of lose their attention, but they do eventually come back because you see the blue line goes back up. And really, the folks are really listening because remember, when folks are listening to podcasts, they have all these ways that they can skip through your episode. That's why you're seeing these little peaks here. You see like there's a little peak. And then maybe if somebody says, oh, you know, this is the part that I want to fast forward to. Or maybe something happened there and they rewound the podcast. And then it's not until towards the very, very end, probably when we're saying, yes, come back next week. Now, when you're in your iTunes Connect, you can actually listen to see what it was that you said that made all these folks drop off. But still, overall, this is a really amazing engagement rate where you're seeing so many people staying. When you see a flat line like this, this is when you know you've got people's attention. They're not going anywhere. And so that is really, really tremendous. And guys, this is this is really important. This is pretty revolutionary. There's no other podcasting host that's going to be able to provide that information for you. What you'll see when we move over into the Libsyn Stats, you'll see that they can tell you how many people have downloaded your episode, but you have no idea how actively they were listening to your content, how they were consuming your content, when they dropped off. This is something, like I said, we've been always able to see in YouTube. You can see in there where the dips are, where people are leaving, coming back, maybe rewatching. Very, very similar to this graph that we're seeing here on iTunes. So this is a real moment in time, and that's why I want to show this to you, because I'm super excited about all the possibilities. You know, it could be, you'll find out that when you're doing a commercial, let's just say you do get a sponsor, you know, you start with your sponsored message. You may see that depending upon how that sponsored message is delivered, if you're not crafty enough to weave that in with your content or what you're talking about, you may say, you know, and now a word from our sponsor, right? You're going to see a big dip. Okay? And especially for your returning listeners, those folks that always listen to your show, they always know here comes a sponsor message. About 10 minutes in, she always, you know, gives a plug. And so there, you're going to see that dip. It doesn't mean that all is lost and that you can't have sponsors. You just can pay more careful attention to this now, where you never had this data before. So that is revolutionary. So let's see if there's anything else that I want to show you here on this one. Dr. Babe, I hope that you're not in the wrong place. Can you see the video? Oh, hey, Andrew, how are you? This may be a silly question. I don't have a direct podcast with iTunes, just my one from Anchor synced to iTunes. I can't find where this is when I log on to iTunes. Is that why? Or maybe, okay, Dr. Babe, this is right. You won't, if you have podcast with Anchor, you will not have a connection to this podcast connect, iTunes Connect. Now, they've renamed it several times, so forgive me if I go back and forth about the name of it. This is my point. This is just to show you the possibilities. I love Anchor. I love using Anchor as a podcasting platform. It has so many great features. You know, one thing that I will say, since you brought up Anchor, I will say, in any of these stats, none of them will tell you the specific people who are listening to your content. In Anchor, you get to see who the people are that are listening. Now, you don't know how long they've listened, but you have other features in Anchor, such as applause and call-ins and all of that, and comments, these things that you don't have with these traditional podcasts. But this is just to show folks on Anchor or any other platform that these are the differences, so that you'll be able to understand these conversations, that they won't go over your head and you won't be like, wow, I don't know what's going on. Know that Anchor has control of your RSS feed when it comes to iTunes. They show stats within the app that are only relevant to other people who are using the app. Okay, so I'm going to say that one more time because that's really important. You do see stats in Anchor, the in-app stats. You don't see any external stats. Anchor may somehow provide for us a way that we can see these stats one day. I don't know. I don't know if that's in their pipeline. I don't know if it's something they even care to do, especially since Anchor is currently free. who knows? They may start charging. They say, hey, if you want to see your stats, it's going to cost you $10. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers. Okay. So just bear this in mind as you're creating your content. This is why what I do is I create some, not all, but some of my content using the Anchor app, and then I extract that content out and I upload it through Libsyn to my real podcast. So what you're going to see next is the Libsyn. This is a brand new dashboard from Libsyn as well. So, like I said, there's been a lot of changes in the podcasting space. And so I just wanted to keep you guys up with what's going on. So let me get that next one ready before I start screen sharing it. So Dr. Babe, don't feel like I asked Farah about subscriptions. She asked iTunes, and they don't track the number of subscribers, but Farah said that she would get that stat if they had access to it. And I guess you mean Faiza, because I'm not sure of that. I know her name is No, she said it's like Pfizer. Faiza. Okay, yes, her name is difficult to pronounce it because it's not pronounced the way it looks. Similar to mine, so I know the feeling. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some stats from Libsyn. Now, Libsyn, like I said, they just updated their stats dashboard too. So, my head was spinning this weekend with all these new stats. Okay, I got the screen share ready now. All right. But still not sharing it the correct way. Let's get it on there exactly the way I want it. Okay, with the Doc Hub, this new software that I just found today. Okay, so now this dashboard is different in the fact that what Libsyn has done here is they show you downloads per day. That's what's at the top of the dashboard for Libsyn. Then as you scroll down, and the Libsyn Stats right now on this new dashboard, now we still have access to our old dashboard, but I'm not going to show you that one because it's really not, it's not going to, it's going to go away soon. So no point in going there. And I've shown that dashboard in previous videos. So if you really want to see one, just leave me a comment in this video and I will give you the link, or you can just search my YouTube. So this starts as of November 1st. Okay. Because remember I said that the IAB has released new guidelines for measuring downloads. Before, we were looking at iTunes. iTunes is totally separate from the IAB. iTunes is showing you how long people listen. You're not going to see that in any other platform. iTunes is the only platform that's going to show you how long people listen. Okay? For podcasts. Now, if you upload your podcast to YouTube, you'll be able to see that in YouTube, but that's not the same. Okay? Because these are people that definitely want to listen to podcasts. These are your subscribers. All right? And people who've just found out about your podcast. Not everybody who listens to your podcast is a subscriber. Of course, you know that. Right? That's like any of our content. So, you see that, her podcast listenership sort of goes up. She usually releases an episode on Mondays. But then there's other spikes during the week as well. And I think that may be because of social media pushes that are being done, or maybe it's just the listening habits of her audience that, even though she releases on a Monday, maybe it's better for them to listen on a Thursday or something like that. And Patricia Murray is here. Aaron Gurov is here as well. So really quickly, and also just to break the monotony of looking at all these charts, let's just take a look at the chat room and say hey to some of my peeps that are here. Okay, Andrew. Hey, yeah, it's another one of my moderators. And let's make sure that I didn't miss anything. Oh, and Beauty Bubbles here. Okay, so sorry, guys. Eileen, I'll catch the replay, but wanted to support you today on this great topic. Love, love, love. Love you too, Beauty. I've noticed the word wrap up tends to start the exit rush. Yes, Andrew. When you start talking about wrapping up your show, people leave. And, it's to be expected. And there's also now we can start looking at thresholds like what's reasonable. 10% of your audience leaves when you say we're wrapping up. Okay, that makes sense because remember, people are listening on the go. Maybe they were getting ready to, stop listening anyway. They were on the treadmill. Now that's finished. And, so they were about to get ready to stop listening anyway. But then when you said wrap up, they know for sure I'm leaving. But you are still retaining some people, so it's not a total loss. Whereas if you saw a complete like nosedive where everybody stops listening, or 80% or 70% of your audience stops listening, you got to stop saying wrap up, right? You just don't tell people you're getting ready to wrap it up. You just abruptly say, okay, bye, see you next week. Or you do something, you have to, and you're going to see a lot more of this come out where people making suggestions of what you should do when you see these dips and what you should do. Or maybe this is a good time when you should give your call to action is in the middle of the show when you've got everybody there and they're, you're going to hear all kinds of theories and strategies, and you'll probably even hear some from me. But for right now, we're just going to take in the information and we'll talk about strategies and all that as we go along. Okay, let me even make this a little bit bigger. So make sure we get all these comments in here. Okay, and then Dr. Babe. Okay, we already talked about Dr. Babe. And okay, just checking, thanks. And she talked about phase out. And then Gaurav came in and said hi. And 50% start, it means your wrap-ups are boring. That's right. Andrew, and like I said, once you have a lot of the folks listening are your subscribers, they're going to start to know your rhythm. They know that you start your show a certain way. They know that about halfway through the show, you're going to do your call to action or whatever your rhythm is. A lot of times with podcasters, they often do segments. Okay, they'll say, oh, and then here's a regular segment we do every week. I'll use an example of my friend Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting. He'll do a segment that's called Because of My Podcast. And he'll have his listeners call in and say, because of my podcast. And you'll hear these phenomenal stories like, for example, there was a guy who had a podcast about a sports team. Guys, I'm not into sports, so don't get me to try to remember which sport it was. It doesn't matter. He had this podcast from the sports team, and he got a phone call. He thought they were going to ask him to shut down his podcast, but no. They wanted him to come must have been a baseball team. They wanted him to come into the dugout and interview the guys on the team. So all because of his podcast. Similar stories like that where people have connected with folks that they never thought that they could get in front of. And that's similar situation where people had a podcast, a fan podcast about a TV show and ended up being able to meet with the directors and some of the cast and interviewing the cast because of their podcast. So this is a segment that Dave does on his show. He doesn't do it every week. But when that segment comes, I bet he'll look in his stats and he'll probably see really high retention rates because everybody wants to hear that. Because you can connect and you can say, wow, what could I do with my podcast that could get me in front of someone that I really admire or some people that I really geek out over or something like that. So those are the things that you want to look at in this unique, and I got to stress that it's unique to this new portal we have from iTunes. You're not going to see this in Libsyn. You're not going to see it in Blueberry. You're not going to see it on Anchor, on Podbean, on Spreaker. The only place that you're going to see this right now is on iTunes. Okay, so I see some more comments came in. And oh, Patricia saying, well, Andrew Hatchett is here. Oh, great. I'm glad that you are familiar with Andrew, Pat. And yeah, Andrew often comes out. I appreciate him so much for being here. That's why he's a moderator here as well, and also a patron over on Patreon. And Katie. Okay, so let's go back to what you can. Oh, I'm sorry. Tish has made such an excellent point. Thanks, Tish, keeping me on my P's and Q's. Tish said, don't forget to click to follow one another. So this is what you do. You have to click on those three dots over here on the right hand side, and this will open up the option to go to the person's channel. So everybody connect with one another and subscribe to each other's channels. Dr. Babe, you probably have a lot of following to do, because I don't think you're following anybody here, and everybody be sure to follow Dr. Babe. She's from the Cayman Islands. So, okay. And Gaurav, I don't know if you have produced any YouTube videos yet, but he's from India. All right, here we go. Let's go over to Libsyn, because Libsyn is going to show something different that you don't see from iTunes. So now what might that be? Let's see if I scroll down here. Okay, one of the things that you get with Libsyn is called your web page. Now, you don't see any stats here with this web page, because on this particular podcast, we're not asking or telling anybody to go to the web page. But then there's Twitter. One of the things you can do with your Libsyn account is automatically tweet every time you post a new episode. You don't have to lift an extra finger to set up a different tweet if you don't want. But if you want to customize it, they give you the whole 280 characters. You can go in there and customize it, because you can schedule your podcast with Libsyn as well. So you can schedule it to go out. Let's say you want yours to go out every Monday morning, but yet you have it all ready on Sunday night. You can schedule it for Monday morning, and you can have that tweet already pre-crafted. Now, the other thing here is the Libsyn Classic feed. Now, all that means is this is the feed that goes out to all these podcatchers. Next, you're going to see the country demographics you're going to see a world map. Sorry, this actually got split in half because, like I said, I made this a PDF. So, but you see here, based on this legend of the heavy download activity is happening in the Americas. And then you also see some activity over here and in India, even South Africa, it looks like there, Australia, and so forth. All right. So you get an idea of the cities. Now, this is the piece that you're going to see in Libsyn, but you're not going to see on iTunes. Because remember, iTunes is only showing you people that are on Apple devices. But Libsyn is going to show you people that are on all different kinds of devices, like Stitcher or Chrome or iTunes or Castbox, which is a really cool app. I may do a video to show you about that one day. Podcast Addict. Let's see what else you have here. Okay, even the listens that come in on Twitter, that's all going to be listed here on your Libsyn stats. And I think I have one more thing to show you on Libsyn, because we've been looking at the overview, the first page that you see when you log in. But I want to also, I'm just going to take a quick break from screen sharing and see if you guys got any more questions. And then I'm going to show you on the episode level. Okay, great. Let's get that all up and running. So, is anyone here thinking about starting a podcast in 2018? Or I know, Dr. Babe, she already has hers. She's using Libsyn, but I just want her to see what's available from the other podcasting hosts. Okay, let's now look on the episode level statistics. All right. Yeah. Okay, good. It went to the right one. And in this case, yeah, the hub. All right. In this case, like I said, it started with November the 1st. And this episode, I picked this episode because it was one that you saw that had that 92% consumption over there when we were looking at iTunes. And, you see that when the podcast first came out is when you got the most consumption. Now, this episode actually came out prior to November the 1st. And so that's why the numbers are a little different here, because this is just the second or third day. And I think the first day it was probably really off the charts here. It was the release date because it was right after the event, the live summit, the Women in Real Estate Summit. So everybody who was at the summit definitely wanted to listen to that episode, especially if they, because it was an amazing interview. So I highly recommend you go check that out. So now in this case, you'll see that because this was really, talking about Philadelphia real estate market and all that, it's really a lot of concentration of listenership in the U.S., more so than, before we saw Russia and all those other countries. But this time it was really focused on the U.S. And here are some of the other agents. Like I said, Apple Core Media, which usually refers to the podcast app, and iTunes, Pocket Casts. Stage Fright is an Android application. Then there's Overcast, all these different, these what they call user agents. I only know some of the lingo because I follow the podcast from Elsie Escobar and Rob Walsh, which is The Feed. And I've also seen many, many interviews with Rob Walsh where he's gone through and said specifically what each one of those user agents represents, because some of them may have an interesting name, but that's just because these companies, maybe they get bought out, or they start off the company with this name, but then the app has a different name, and so forth and so on. So you kind of really need to be in the weeds to know this kind of stuff. And so, like, I know that Dalvik is one that is for Android. But most folks would never know that. And I'm not even sure what the name of that real app is, but Dalvik is the company that is the name of the user agent. So there you have it. Oh, wow. I'm so happy that you guys hung in here with me talking about stats, geeking out with me about podcasting stats. It's, like I said, one of the most important ways to connect with our audience, outside of video, is voice, right? So podcasting, and, now with all the stuff with the smart speakers, and all of our podcasts are eventually going to be on the smart speakers. So people don't want to just listen to music. And that reminds me, now, if you host with Libsyn, you can get your podcast onto Spotify. So people are not just listening to music when they're at the gym, when they're walking the dog, as they're winding down in the evening, or even in the background while they're at work. They're also listening to podcasts because it's something that you can do and multitask, as opposed to video. Even though I bet somebody's trying to multitask right now while this video is on, but come back to me. Just kidding, guys. So I don't mind if you're just listening to me in the background. That's good. So Katie says, my sister and I should be working on our channel soon. I need a new photo and some channel art. All right, great. You can watch some tutorials on how to use either PicMonkey or Canva, or, actually TubeBuddy does have something where you can make your thumbnails, but for your channel art, you might want to try a PicMonkey or a Canva, or you go over to Fiverr and get somebody to make it for you, unless you got some of your own software on your computer that you can use. I like to use Photoshop, but I don't start things in Photoshop. I mentioned my daughter's Better Than Success uh, business, and she has a graphic designer right now. Brianna is the graphic designer, and she start things off, or she gives me images in Photoshop, and sometimes I may change the wording or swap out the image. So you guys have a lot to say about that. So hang on. Oh, Andrew said Pixlr. What's the one? Hey, Eileen, I saw when you first came on, but I was going through a tunnel. Oh, first time watching on mobile. Oh, cool. I know it must be really hard to see this chat on mobile, but uh, thanks for coming, Ruth. You have Adobe Creative Cloud. Time to put it to work. Yes. And there's so many templates out there, Katie. I'm sure you can find a Photoshop template that's relatively inexpensive or even free. I know that Roberto Blake has some. He has some Photoshop banner art templates. Now, I don't know if that's part of, like when you sign up for his email list or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But check with Roberto Blake. And since you're such a loyal watcher, fan, he may even wind up hooking you up. You know what I mean? Okay. Oh, Katie got her first Amazon Dot last week, and she ordered it. It'll come tomorrow. Yes. The Dot is a great way to start. And, I started with the Dot, and then I also got the bigger Echo, second generation. And, you can do some fun things with it. I'm still annoyed that she doesn't know how to pronounce my name correctly. She either calls me Eileen or Elaine. I don't ask. I don't get it. I already contacted their support, and yeah, that was 2 months ago. They said, yeah, you're right. We replicated that problem. Yeah. What, you think I'm making it up? And that's the last I heard from them. So, but other than that, it's good for knowing the weather, the time, playing music. And there's all kinds of things. You can get her to tell you jokes, or you can surf the internet if you want. If you have a question, you can ask her. Sometimes she doesn't know the answer, but the smart speakers, a lot of things, they're a lot smarter than other things. So they still have some work to do. We got to remember that they are really machines, even though sometimes we tend to think we're talking to a person. No, it's not really. And when she comes back and says, I don't know that, and then that's when you say, yeah. Oh, that's right. Ruth ordered 3 of those. She used my link. I appreciate that. And if anybody does want to support the station, you can, in the description, you'll see the link to my shop. As a matter of fact, let me show you that shop really quickly before we get off here. And I'll show you some of the things that I have over there, things that can help you with your podcast as well as with your YouTube channels. And this is my influencer page here. Let me get it all on the screen there. And, the tripod, the mini pod that I showed off last night. Tish was there. I did that over on Instagram Live. But I think I'm going to also upload that to my Facebook page later on, because I did download the video. And then there's my daughter's book, the Anti-Hustle book. And, there's one of the microphones I use. This is the microphone I'm on right now, which is the ATR 2100 with the windscreen. Now I have that iPhone 8 Plus, and then there's that wireless charging pad. And I've been using that off and on all day. Here's just a general overview. The lighting, which thanks to Andrew Hatchett, who told me about that. I have that lighting on right now over here to my right. And, yeah, some of the things that we were just talking about are here as well. That's the Echo Dot, which is on sale for $29.99. And then the big time Echo. Second generation is $80. Now, you guys know that there is an Echo show which you can watch videos, but there is currently a big battle going on between YouTube and Amazon about that. And YouTube has pulled the YouTube library from the Amazon show, which is just, I guess you could say it looks like a little tablet. It's like a little mini, it's smaller than a TV, okay? But it would be great to have in the kitchen while you're cooking or something like that, or on your nightstand, so you don't, if you don't want to have the TV on. But there's other videos that you can watch on there, because Amazon has a video library as well, right? You can order movies and all that stuff from Amazon, and you don't have to have your TV on if you don't want. Or you can also use it when you're traveling. No, you can't, because you have to plug it in. So unless you have, they probably have those batteries that you can, so you can make it portable. But anyway, back to the YouTube controversy. So YouTube has said that, and I don't have all the details, okay, but I'll tell you to the best of my memory, that the way that they display the YouTube videos is not the way YouTube intends. And I do know, and we all know from watching YouTube, that when you watch a YouTube video, there's other things. There's all those interactive elements, the cards, and then they've always got other videos that they're trying to engage you or attract you to continue you watching on YouTube. So apparently the way this was pared down on the Amazon show, you weren't seeing some of that. Now, I've never saw the Amazon show in action, so I don't know exactly what the experience was like. But I could just assume that you're not going to be seeing interactive cards, and you're not going to be seeing suggestive videos and all of that. So right now, and it's been for a few weeks now, maybe even a couple of months, that you can't get videos. And so it's interesting that I don't hear that and see that show, the Amazon show, being promoted as much as I do the Echo and the Dot. I think they really want to narrow in on the voice and the smart speaker, that whole concept. Now, Google has one that's coming out, but it's $400. And Marcus Brownlee did a review of it. Oh my God, he does the best tech reviews ever. And for $400, that's a nice chunk of change compared to this one here that's only $79. So, but obviously the sound of it is much more robust, and covers a bigger area and all that. It just all depends upon your needs. If you already have a stereo, you may not need that. To me, this is just something that I just need to have like in one room. And all these rooms are small here, so I don't really need it big. But, because I listen to music mostly from my computer or from my television. So it just all depends upon your use case and your needs for it. So there's a little bit of a backstory there. Let's see if I missed anything over here. Ruth says she doesn't like this Amazon YouTube feud. Yeah, I don't like it either. Oh, you got the show and now it's on sale. Oh my goodness. You have to be a real audiophile for a $400 speaker. Yeah, it's nice. And you can't get them from Amazon because Google also has something that's called the Mini. All right, the Home Mini. That's about $50. And as far as I know, it's not on sale for the holidays. And so it's very similar to the Dot. But, I'm not sure why that one's not on sale, because the Dot is on sale for $30. So it seems like to me Google would put theirs on sale for, I think it's maybe $40 instead of $50. Seems like to me they would have it priced more competitively, but I don't know. I guess they figure people that are, loyalists to the Google products, or they're just loyal. But I think there's way more people that are loyal to buying stuff from Amazon. But who am I? I don't know. Personally, I'm more loyal to buying my products from Amazon, but using things from Google. And I really would love to have an Android phone right now, but I know that the iPhone, because those are the three big players that are always competing with each other for our uh, holiday dollars: Apple, Amazon, and Google. Um, when it comes to live streaming, you guys know I love my live streaming. All the stuff comes out on the iPhone first. So I don't want to be left behind. And I liked having my Android phone as a second device, but it died. I was charging it and charging it. It was a Galaxy S4. So I got my money's worth out of it, that's for sure. So, never know. I may wind up getting my hands on another Android device before it's all said and done. I like to get a tablet. When you are selling Rolls Royce, you don't put them on sale. Oh, okay. Okay, so you got two minis on sale for 99. Okay, the mini is on sale. Great, great, wonderful. And wonderful. I love that you guys are talking to each other. I brought the Echo Show. Okay, yeah, wonderful. I think I got all of your comments. So with that, guys, I'm really glad that the podcasting space has evolved to the point where we're getting better stats, and we're getting these stats from Apple, which I actually, honestly, I never thought I would see the day. So I'm pretty excited that we are getting that, and it's going to really shed some more light and really make things comparable. The only thing is we have to still keep in mind that Apple is not the only way that your podcast is being listened to, and as time goes by and there's more and more applications that come onto these Android devices, because remember, there's really more Android devices on the planet than there is iOS devices. Okay. So, for one thing, they're cheaper. And that's not necessarily in quality, I'm just meaning in price. So, and they're just more readily available, especially in other countries, not just in the US. And so, as more and more countries and more people start listening to podcasts around the world, you know, we can't just look at our Apple iTunes Connect stats and consider that as gospel, right? And each person needs to look at their stats from their host. And this is why I recommend Libsyn or Blueberry, because you need to have those stats. Oh, Spreaker is also another great option. But you need to have those robust stats that show you what devices people are listening on. Because if you have a smaller audience on Apple, I'll give you a great example. Let's say you have a podcast about Android devices. You're going to have a much smaller audience on Apple devices, right? You're going to have a bigger audience that are listening on Android devices. That's what your podcast is about. So you may not even want to give any credence to the stats from Apple. That doesn't mean you want to ignore them. It just depends upon how big your show is. Because some people are like myself who like to have both. They have Apple and they have Android. I'm not an Apple fangirl or an Android fangirl. I just like tech. Somebody buy me an Android phone right now, I'll be a happy camper. So, so anyway, guys, just I want to give some perspective to what's happened in the podcasting space and keep you guys informed. If you wanted to become part of, I won't call the notification squad, I'll just call it my patrons, my supporters over on Patreon. I have a few of them here today, Katie and Tish and Andrew. And you can come over to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Eileen, A-N-E. And with that, I'm going to wrap things up. How's that, Andrew? And you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week for another live stream. Peace.